The olive ILV, or lev, known by the botanical name Olea europaea, meaning European olive, is a species of small tree in the family Oleaceae, found in much of Africa, the Mediterranean basin from Portugal to the Levant, the Arabian Peninsula, and southern Asia as far east as China, as well as the Canary Islands, Mauritius and Reunion. The species is cultivated in many places and considered naturalized in Spain, Algeria, France, Greece, Turkey, Cyprus, Malta, Croatia, Slovenia, Albania, Crimea, Egypt, Israel, Iran, Iraq, Italy, Argentina, Jordan, Morocco, Palestine, Syria, Saudi Arabia, Tunisia, Lebanon, Java, Norfolk Island, California and Bermuda. The olive's fruit, also called the olive, is of major agricultural importance in the Mediterranean region as the source of olive oil. The tree and its fruit give their name to the plant family, which also includes species such as lilacs, jasmine, forsythia and the true ash trees. The word derives from Latin olivo, which is cognate with the Greek lambda alpha iota and lambda alpha iota omicron nu. The oldest attested forms of the latter two words in Greek are respectively the Mycenaean, Irawa, and Irawo or Irawo, written in the linear bisyllabic script. The word oil in multiple languages ultimately derives from the name of this tree and its fruit. Description: the olive tree, Olea europaea, is an evergreen tree or shrub native to the Mediterranean, Asia and Africa. It is short and squat, and rarely exceeds 8 to 15 meters in height. The Pisciatona, a unique variety comprising 40,000 trees found only in the area around Pisciota in the Campania region of southern Italy, often exceeds this, with correspondingly large trunk diameters. The silvery green leaves are oblong, measuring 4 to 10 centimeters long and 1 to 3 centimeters wide. The trunk is typically gnarled and twisted. The small white, feathery flowers, with 10 cleft calyx and corolla, 2 stamens and bifid stigma, are borne generally on the previous year's wood, in racemes springing from the axils of the leaves. The fruit is a small drupe 1 to 2.5 centimeters long, thinner fleshed and smaller in wild plants than in orchard cultivars. Olives are harvested in the green to purple stage. Canned black olives may contain chemicals that artificially turn them black. Olea europaea contains a seed commonly referred to in American English as a pit or a rock, and in British English as a stone. Taxonomy: there are 6 natural subspecies of Olea europaea distributed over a wide range. Olea europaea subsp. europaea. Olea europaea subsp. cuspidata. Olea europaea subsp. guanchica. Olea europaea subsp. cerasiformis. Olea europaea subsp. Moroccana. Olea europaea subsp. Leperini. The subspecies Moroccana and cerasiformis are respectively hexaploid and tetraploid. Wild-growing forms of the olive are sometimes treated as the species Olea oleaster. Cultivars: there are hundreds of cultivars of the olive tree. An olive's cultivar has a significant impact on its color, size, shape, and growth characteristics, as well as the qualities of olive oil. Olive cultivars may be used primarily for oil, eating, or both. Olives cultivated for consumption are generally referred to as table olives. Since many olive cultivars are self-sterile or nearly so, they are generally planted in pairs with a single primary cultivar and a secondary cultivar selected for its ability to fertilize the primary one. In recent times, efforts have been directed at producing hybrid cultivars with qualities such as resistance to disease, quick growth and larger or more consistent crops. History: prehistory. It seems certain that the olive tree as we know it today had its origin approximately 6,000–7,000 years ago in the region corresponding to ancient Persia and Mesopotamia. The olive plant later spread from these countries to nearby territories corresponding to present-day Syria, Israel and the occupied Palestinian territories. The edible olive seems to have coexisted with humans for about 5,000 to 6,000 years. Going back to the early Bronze Age, its origin can be traced to areas along the eastern Mediterranean coast in what are now southern Turkey, Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, and Israel, based on written tablets, olive pits, and wood fragments found in ancient tombs. At least one cookbook writer has posited that the most ancient evidence of olive cultivation is found in Syria, Israel, and Crete. The immediate ancestry of the cultivated olive is unknown. It is assumed that Olea europaea may have arisen from O. chrysophylla in northern tropical Africa, and that it was introduced into the countries of the Mediterranean basin via Egypt and then Crete or the Levant, Syria, Tunisia and Asia Minor. Fossil Olea pollen has been found in Macedonia, Greece, and other places around the Mediterranean, indicating that this genus is an original element of the Mediterranean flora. Fossilized leaves of Olea were found in the paleosols of the volcanic Greek island of Santorini and were dated about 37,000 BP. Imprints of larvae of olive whitefly Alurolobus olivinus were found on the leaves. The same insect is commonly found today on olive leaves, showing that the plant's-animal coevolutionary relations have not changed since that time. As far back as 3000 BC, olives were grown commercially in Crete. They may have been the source of the wealth of the Minoan civilization. Outside the Mediterranean, olives are not native to the Americas. Spanish colonists brought the olive to the New World, where its cultivation prospered in present-day Peru and Chile. The first precious seedlings from Spain were planted in Lima by Antonio de Rivera in 1560. Olive tree cultivation quickly spread along the valleys of South America's dry Pacific coast, where the climate was similar to the Mediterranean. Spanish missionaries established the tree in the 18th century in California. It was first cultivated at Mission San Diego de Alcala in 1769 or later around 1795. Orchards were started at other missions, but in 1838 an inspection found only 2 olive orchards in California. Oil tree cultivation gradually became a highly successful commercial venture from the 1860s onward. In Japan, the first successful planting of olive trees happened in 1908 on Shoda Island, which became the cradle of olive cultivation. It is estimated that there are about 865 million olive trees in the world today, and the vast majority of these are found in Mediterranean countries. Although traditionally marginal areas account for no more than 25% of olive planted area and 10% of oil production. Symbolic connotations. Olive oil has long been considered sacred. The olive branch was often a symbol of abundance, glory and peace. The leafy branches of the olive tree were ritually offered to deities and powerful figures as emblems of benediction and purification, and they were used to crown the victors of friendly games and bloody wars. Today, olive oil is still used in many religious ceremonies. Over the years, the olive has been the symbol of peace, wisdom, glory, fertility, power and purity. Ancient Egypt, leafy branches of the olive tree were found in Tutankhamun's tomb. Ancient Israel and Hebrew Bible. The olive was one of the main elements in ancient Israelite cuisine. Olive oil was used for not only food and cooking, but also lighting, sacrificial offerings, ointment, and anointment for priestly or royal office. The olive tree is one of the first plants mentioned in the Hebrew Bible and in the Christian Old Testament, and one of the most significant. It was an olive leaf that a dove brought back to Noah to demonstrate that the flood was over. The olive is listed in Deuteronomy chapter 8 verse 8 as one of the 7 species that are noteworthy products of the land of Israel. Ancient Greece. The ancient Greeks used to smear olive oil on their bodies and hair as a matter of grooming and good health. Olive oil was used to anoint kings and athletes in ancient Greece. It was burnt in the sacred lamps of temples, as well as being the eternal flame of the original Olympic Games. Victors in these games were crowned with its leaves. In Homer's Odyssey, Odysseus crawls beneath 2 shoots of olive that grow from a single stalk, and in the Iliad, is a metaphoric description of a lone olive tree in the mountains. By a spring, the Greeks observed that the olive rarely thrives at a distance from the sea, which in Greece invariably means up mountain slopes. Greek myth attributed to the primordial culture hero Aristaeus the understanding of olive husbandry, along with cheese-making and beekeeping. Olive was one of the woods used to fashion the most primitive Greek cult figures, called swana. Referring to their wooden material, they were reverently preserved for centuries. It was purely a matter of local pride that the Athenians claimed that the olive grew first in Athens. In an archaic Athenian foundation myth, Athena won the patronship of Attica from Poseidon with the gift of the olive, though, according to the 4th century BC father of botany, Theophrastus, olive trees ordinarily attained an age of about 200 years. He mentions that the very olive tree of Athena still grew on the Acropolis. It was still to be seen there in the 2nd century AD, and when Pausanias was shown it, 170 AD, he reported. Legend also says that when the Persians fired Athens, the olive was burnt down. But on the very day it was burnt, it grew again to the height of 2 cubits. Indeed, olive suckers sprout readily from the stump, and the great age of some existing olive trees shows that it was perfectly possible that the olive tree of the Acropolis dated to the Bronze Age. The olive was sacred to Athena and appeared on the Athenian coinage. Theophrastus, in On the Nature of Plants, does not give a systematic and detailed account of olive husbandry as he does of the vine, but he makes clear that the cultivated olive must be vegetatively propagated. Indeed, the pits give rise to thorny, wild-type olives, spread far and wide by birds. Theophrastus reports how the bearing olive can be grafted on the wild olive, for which the Greeks had a separate name, kotinos. Ancient Rome. According to Pliny the Elder, a vine, a fig tree and an olive tree grew in the middle of the Roman Forum. The latter was planted to provide shade. The Roman poet Horace mentions it in reference to his own diet, which he describes as very simple. As for me, olives, endives, and smooth mallows provide sustenance. Lord Monboddo comments on the olive in 1779 as one of the foods preferred by the ancients and as one of the most perfect foods. Vitruvius describes of the use of charred olive wood in tying together walls and foundations in his De Architectura. The thickness of the wall should, in my opinion, be such that armed men meeting on top of it may pass one another without interference. In the thickness there should be set a very close succession of ties made of charred olive wood, binding the 2 faces of the wall together like pins, to give it lasting endurance. For that is a material which neither decay, nor the weather, nor time can harm. But even though buried in the earth or set in the water, it keeps sound and useful forever. And so not only city walls but substructures in general, and all walls that require a thickness like that of a city wall, will be long in falling to decay if tied in this manner. New Testament. The Mount of Olives east of Jerusalem is mentioned several times in the New Testament. The allegory of the olive tree in St. Paul's epistle to the Romans refers to the scattering and gathering of Israel. It compares the Israelites to a tame olive tree and the Gentiles to a wild olive branch. The olive tree itself, as well as olive oil and olives, play an important role in the Bible. Islam. The olive tree and olive oil are mentioned 7 times in the Quran, and the olive is praised as a precious fruit. Most notably, it is mentioned in one of the most famous verses of the Quran, Ayat an-Nur. Allah is the light of the heavens in the earth. The similitude of his light is as a niche wherein is a lamp, the lamp in a glass. The glass as it were a glittering star kindled from a blessed tree, an olive that is neither eastern nor western, whose oil would illuminate, even if no fire touches it. Light upon light, Allah guides to his light whomever he decides, and Allah strikes similitudes for mankind. and Allah is ever knowing of everything. Olive tree and olive oil health benefits have been propounded in prophetic medicine. Muhammad is reported to have said, "Take oil of olive and massage with it. It is a blessed tree." Olives are substitutes for dates during Ramadan fasting, and olive tree leaves are used as incense in some Muslim Mediterranean countries.